Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be jumping down into the world of Bitcoin. Bitcoin took a bit of a tumble yesterday. We've seen a pretty deep retracement for BTC. So in this video we're going to be taking a look at that price action, what I think is likely to happen next and all that wonderful stuff. As I get into the video, if you do find it useful, smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe, and if you haven't yet joined us in Discord guys, check it out, linked in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. Let's jump right down into this video and take a look at what's been going on with Bitcoin. So as we can kind of see here on the hourly chart, we've got the smart money concepts. This is actually the easiest kind of way of probably looking at the structure of the market, in my opinion. Outside of the real basic stuff like trend lines and things like that. So smart money concepts basically tracks the idea that smart money is entering and exiting the space. Okay, and so for Bitcoin here, we can see that we have moved down quite a bit and we actually changed our characteristics of our structure. Okay, so up this side here, we were in a bullish structure. Okay, this was after we flipped into a bearish structure, which was previously bullish, right? So we can see it was choppy. It didn't understand, or the market didn't really ascertain whether it was going to be bullish or whether it was going to be bearish. It kept flipping between the two. Okay, and then yesterday what we saw was a move down here to the downside, and that has now triggered another bearish structure. Okay, so ultimately our market here at the moment is in this state of play that is in a bearish state at the moment. Now, as you can see, smart money has entered into the space, or more specifically exited out of the space right in this gap here. Okay, this comes in right on this low and this high right here. Let's see if I can get that on there. Here we go. And 26,074 to 26,699. Okay, so that's the fair value gap that was left behind by creating the imbalance in the order book space, basically, and essentially large sell orders entered here, not enough liquidity to fill them until the price came down here. Okay, now obviously this is a lot of the price action and a lot of the fear that's coming into the space right now. It's all around Binance and the way that the SEC are filed a lawsuit against Binance US and CZ and all that kind of stuff that's going on and bubbling in the background. Now, we'll talk more about that on the podcast channel. If you haven't missed that already, you should go check that out. But essentially, you know, it kind of was a given they were going to do something like this. They've already filed a lawsuit against Coinbase, and now they're filing a lawsuit against Binance. Binance will not be the last. If they are accusing both Coinbase and accusing Binance of very similar securities frauds, right? Essentially, you know, these cryptocurrencies that they believe are securities, then they won't be the only exchanges, in my opinion. There will be more. So just bear that in mind. So what does this mean for our structure? Well, we are down here at a week low. We have a strong high. Equilibrium is quite high now. We're above the, we're below the 50 and 200 EMAs here. So essentially, it's not looking overly positive. Now we can do some sense checks here. We're going to take this little area right here. Okay, we're going to then move it over to the bounce right there. We can see that we hit the 1.618 down here. And so it looks to me like we still have a little bit more bleeding to do before we fill this little area out. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that on the smart money concept side of things, because yesterday we were talking about a move to the downside where we were targeting out this range of 25,935 to 26,286. Okay, now obviously we exceeded this, so let's go ahead and change up our structures a little bit here, because this does change things. Okay, we can't just assume that was a fifth wave movement, and instead I think we're going to have to adjust our thought process on what's been going on here. So for example, I think it's probably better now to look at this more like this. Okay, this is not one I was hoping for, but it's one that I think is more likely to be the case. Okay, we have 53535 with a diagonal at the end. We bounce up here and then we have this move here. Okay, and so if we take a look, it's quite a neat version now. We would see a potential move for the downside still. If we measure the distance on this structure here and we move it over to the high that we have over here, you can see that we're just going to come down into the 121 or the 1.236. 1.618 is a lot lower, coming in at 24,496. Okay, so that area will be of interest to me, but we'll see whether or not that's something that has to play out, because I still think we're in a diagonal here, and a diagonal would be 3 waves, in which case we're already in that structure, as in this is an A, that's a B, and this will be our C. Okay, so impulsion I don't think is likely to occur, but let's go ahead and measure where we're likely to finish this last little area here. Okay, so assuming that we've already kind of pushed as high as we need to here, and for the most part we could. I can see 3 waves in there. So yeah, we'll be looking at coming down to our 1.236 to 1.236 to 1.618. That basically puts us at 25,101 to 25,278. So that'll be where we will kind of think about finishing off our final 5th wave, which will basically be finishing off our C wave, which will then bring in a 3-wave structure just here. Okay. Now, we were looking at this as a potential 5-wave structure, but it may not be the case at all. It may be that we're doing something vastly different, but it'll be interesting to kind of see how this one goes, because this would be an interesting structure overall. So I still look at this as a potential a wave A coming up into wave B. This one here would be a wave C, so it still has further to go, but this could just be a wave A of a wave C, for example. Or even more specifically, if we were to think of a wave 1 being down here, a wave 2 coming up here, we got a wave 3 that was going to come down quite deeper. The move with yesterday and the importance of yesterday's structure is we did come down deeper than our next 1.618 nested structured move. This is quite complicated, but essentially the idea here is that we're nesting 5-wave impulsive structures inside each other. And if this is the case, then actually all we're doing here is basically creating a real big macro 5-wave structure, but we're doing it on an hourly chart, which means you have all these kind of really choppy movements, but actually they're nesting inside each other to make this really big macro bearish structure. And that's something that will get confirmed much later down the line, but by triggering that next one, it does means that we've nested, in theory, another 5 waves inside. So the next one to be thinking about is 24,864, and then after that 23,972, which would be our daily trigger point at that point. So if I bring this up into our daily here, you can kind of see if we do come down into this level, that what we're really looking for here is going to be that impulsion, and that happens at a wave 1, wave 2, coming down here would trigger the wave 3, up for 4 and down for 5, and then you can kind of see how that would play out, right? And so those are the kind of the interesting things that are developing from the Bitcoin on the hourly that build up into these bigger macro dailies and weeklies. Now, here we can see that we're right inside the fair value gaps. In fact, if I bring up our fair value gaps here, you can see that we're filling out this first one at 25,167 to 25,167 to 26,578. We've almost filled it. We'll probably have to come down a little bit deeper and find support on that 200 EMA. That 200 EMA at the moment comes in at 25,206, but we'll probably wick down a little bit lower and grab that first fair value gap. There are, of course, 3 others on this daily chart that we'll have to be considering. Okay, now if we think about those things and the importance of those, then it's probably worth actually noting about the CME gaps as well. Let's see if I can get that loaded up here. And the CME gaps, there are a couple of interesting ones. Okay, we have gap that was filled out over here. Okay, that was grabbed. We have the lower one coming down more towards 20,330 and 21,110, and then there is one a little bit higher in the price chart right up here at 34. So I don't know why it isn't marked out. Maybe I marked it on a different chart, but yeah, there's one right up there, and so we want to kind of consider what that might mean as well, because we find ourselves moving down, finding support potentially on that 200 EMA. We could see maybe a rally up towards the kind of 34,455 to 35,180. I think there's a low probability of it, but it's there anyway. And obviously we've got the one on the lower side here as well. So 2 CME gaps, we more than likely are going to go fill that at some point in time. We can see that obviously we did get rejected from our supply range. We've come down, and it looks like we might, if we get a closed position below the 50 EMA, be looking to come down towards the $24,000 and $25,000 ranges. But I will be looking for a bounce at some point. back up into this range to retest. So ultimately, yeah, I think Bitcoin's seen some volatility. Obviously, these things can sometimes be predictable and sometimes cannot be predictable. Elliott wave theory was saying that we had to moves to the downside to be seen. It doesn't know the reasoning or the rationale behind it, but just knows that the psychology, or tracks the psychology of people, and people just needed an excuse. I think that's essentially weirdly what Elliott wave theory was telling us, that essentially there was a requirement to move down and they just needed a nudge in that direction. And then comes along a lawsuit against Binance in the same way that we saw a lawsuit against Coinbase. Although, yeah, there's definitely an agenda against Binance in that particular regard. So you can understand that, you know, a move in that direction was imminent, and they just needed a nudge, or people just needed a nudge in that direction to kind of get things rolling. Ultimately, we are where we are right now. I expect a little bit further to the downside, but I do expect a bounce to the upside as well in the very near future. Some kind of relief rally, and we are still targeting out that slightly deeper level of 23,900 on that 1.618 level as well. I'm going to leave the video right there though, guys. If you have found this useful and informative, smash the like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new, then why not go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to join us down in Discord, and guys, I'll catch you all in the next one.